Opening Imperial level combat Power+Top Tricolor Dominance+Double Blade Flow Sword Hero+Space Fruit+Single Female Lead Peach Rabbit+Strongest Background in the Sea+Semi Dark Flow+Giant War, Lex has gone through several eras. In 1484, in the West Sea, the Valley of the Gods, he stood behind his uncle the Golden Lion and experienced the boundless dominance of rocks. In 1485, in the New World, Sphinx had a long conversation with Whitebeard all night, drinking until dawn, but he was already known as his father. In 1497, on the Great Route of the Air Island, he met Roger at an altitude of 10,000 meters and had a feast for 3 days and 3 nights. In 1498, the era of the Great Pirate arrived. In 1512, the Maritime Royal Alliance emerged and announced the highest speaker. Leon Lex. The tide of the times surges forward. In 1523, the Battle of Dawn. He is the only disciple of the fourth of the 3 great legends. The Red Count.Leon Lex, the terminator of the age of pirates and the pioneer of the free age, has been the most free man and charming king in Qinghai for 800 years. P.S. Don't play memes, be a real pirate, never a Virgin Mary, slow-paced, with a brain, layout for 30 years, with 2 designs. Chapter 1. My Struggle. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. It's a bit slow heating and requires a bit of patience. Please forgive me, everyone, and spray gently. Thank you, everyone. For those who pursue slow heating layout, you can take a look later as the front is a bit monotonous. There seems to be some small poison in the first few chapters, I don't want to change it, let's do it this way, brain storage #_#, Zhiyuan calendar, 1489. In the depths of the distant New World, the Ghana Islands, on the west coast. Lex never imagined that he would live a whole new life in such an identity. Leon Lex, the only contemporary son of the Leon family, has only his uncle Leon Ski as his living relative. He has a quarter of the Rain Moon bloodline and is the daughter of his grandmother, Rain Moon Rinko, and the country's Rabbit Bull daimyo. So, uncle, do you insist that I go out to sea today to wear this kind of kimono because my grandmother comes from that country of peace? Lex, dressed in a loose kimono with blue and green stripes, turned his head to look at the Golden Lion beside him. Lex knew that his uncle was a very traditional pirate, and it would make sense for him to dress like this. The Golden Lion was dressed in a bright golden kimono, with wooden clogs on its feet and a cigar in its mouth. Both of them sat cross-legged, facing the sea. The Golden Lion did not directly answer Lex, but instead looked straight at the sea in front of him. It's early morning now, with the rising sun and the sea breeze blowing. The golden radiance pierces through the thick cumulonimbus clouds, scattering on the sea surface. The distant sky on the other side presents an orange hue, complementing the sea, gentle and romantic, majestic and magnificent, coexisting at this moment. After a moment of silence, the Golden Lion continued to gaze into the distance and slowly spoke, That's just because I look more pleasing to the eye. Without further explanation, the Golden Lion immediately remained silent because at this moment, he became unusually melancholic. He faced the sea, holding a cigar in his mouth, with a hint of desolation in his face. For men like the Golden Lion, this kind of melancholy is extremely rare. However, no matter how powerful the legend of the sea is, no matter how cruel the owl is, there will still be a fragile side. No, perhaps it is not fragility, it is softness, it also has joy, anger, sorrow, and joy. However, in the past, he has shown more of the owl's temperament supported by huge ambitions. Nowadays, when faced with inevitable family outings in life, men like the Golden Lion are inevitably saddened. Lex suddenly arrived from the West Sea today and told him that he was going out to sea. The Golden Lion didn't answer, just let Lex follow, and the two arrived at the west coast of the Ghana Islands. Although Lex often visits him after going out to sea, he is still considered independent. Without a word, the Golden Lion stood up and took out a puff of smoke. He turned to look at Lex, his only blood relative in the world. Lex, if I remember correctly, you're 20 years old. Well, it's like this, uncle. What's wrong? Lex answered in a conventional manner and stood up closely following the Golden Lion. Do you want to drink? Come and drink with me at a bar. It seemed like an inquiry, but also a request. In short, the Golden Lion stood up and flew towards the sky. Yes, at this moment, a huge pirate ship is floating in the air above this island. The hull of the ship is over 300 meters long, with a huge golden lion's head at the bow. The hull is made up of adam, a precious wood, as the keel. The lion-shaped skull-shaped pirate flag on the mast is spreading in the wind. It is the main ship of the flying pirates and the vehicle of the legendary Golden Lion of the New World pirates. The Lion Ghost. It has been over 5 years since the end of the Great War in the Valley of God. 5 years is enough to bring about earth-shattering changes in this treacherous sea. How many old people have passed away with the wind, and how many heroes have ascended the throne? At this time, the Golden Lion had already left the Rocks pirates, and the previous pirate lord, Rox D. Jibek, died in battle, ending his lifelong hope in the Valley of the Gods. Since then, no one in this vast sea has been able to suppress the ambition of the Golden Lion. This owl is officially competing in the sea. At this time, the Golden Lion had not yet used an island boat as a vehicle, indicating that he did not rely too much on fruit abilities. His most powerful skill was the double-blade flow swordsmanship, which was hailed as the world's largest swordsman. The world's largest swordsman today. Golden Lion Shurji. He has received the enormous legacy left by Rocks, the vast waters of the New World. After the collapse of the Rocks pirates, the monsters of the New World were eager to compete in the sea one by one. And the former captain of the Rocks pirates, the Golden Lion Ski, is undoubtedly the biggest winner among them, the man who rules this sea from the sky. Watching the Golden Lion slowly fly into the air and arrive at the bow of the Lion Ghost, Lex's eyes froze slightly, his left hand lifted slightly, and he lightly pressed, as if space had been touched by him at that moment. Suddenly, a light blue glow emanated from the surrounding space of Lex. In an instant, Lex disappeared into place and then appeared next to the Golden Lion. Space teleportation. Looking at Lex, who appeared next to him in an instant, the Golden Lion's eyes showed a hint of approval. His nephew was undoubtedly a monster, and at the age of 20, he had quietly reached the summit of the sea. The Golden Lion lifted his left hand lightly, and a few bottles of sherry floated in the air, landing beside the two of them. This is the ability of Superman's Piao Fruit Awakening, which does not require direct contact with objects and can control the gravity of objects from afar. Lex has always felt that this is the fruit of mental energy, and it is the type that does not consume much physical energy because maintaining an object in a floating state does not consume much of the user's physical energy. In later generations, even after his uncle, the Golden Lion, was weakened at an epic level, he was able to keep dozens of empty islands hanging high in the sky for a long time, as can be seen. Moreover, the Golden Lion next to Lex is now in its prime. A head of golden long hair fluttering in the wind, legs healthy, and has been fighting in the sea for decades. Just entering the peak, holding 2 large and fast knives, 21 skilled, full of energy, traversing the New World, unmatched. He is currently the largest pirate in the New World and one of the leaders in the pirate world. Lions roar all over the world, awe-inspiring all nations. The two of them opened the wine bottle directly, touched it, and began to drink freely. Ah, after drinking so much wine, it must be this one. Sherry wine, the romance of men lies in it, Jia. The Golden Lion took a sip of wine and laughed heartily, as if the previous melancholy had been swept away. Lex didn't answer the question, just sipped the sherry in the bottle. Occasionally, when the bottle in the Golden Lion's hand was about to bottom out, Lex would always open a new bottle of wine and hand it to the Golden Lion as soon as possible. Lex certainly understood that although his uncle seemed to be laughing, he was actually not at ease because he was going to sea, but his uncle would not stop him, nor could he stop him. What reason can prevent a man from running towards the sea? Although it may be sad, it is inevitable. After all, Lex has truly gone out to sea and no longer lives under the name of the Golden Lion. Since arriving in the world of pirates, Lex has never seen a second relative besides his uncle. Loneliness is the norm, while enjoying freedom, loneliness is also inevitable. And the Golden Lion is like this, only when Lex is by his side can others feel the rare warmth in life, embellishing the life of the Golden Lion. But Lex's departure is inevitable. He is 20 years old and he must go to sea. Over the years, Lex has spent most of his time practicing in the West Sea, and Leon's family belongs to the West Sea. During this time, he occasionally came to the New World with the Golden Lion. Lex has witnessed the dominance of Rox, Whitebeard, Roger, and others, and has experienced the elegance of the middle aged steel-boned Sky, Cap, Warring States, and others. Lex has witnessed the cruelty and cunning of the pirate world, as well as the brilliance of human nature, the justice of the navy, the corruption of the government, the corruption of the nobility, and the struggle of the common people in the era. For Lex, pirates, navy, civilian, nobles. Perhaps it's not that important anymore. In short, 20-year-old Leon Lex has finally set sail. In what kind of identity? From what standpoint? The Golden Lion and Lex seemed to have an unusual tacit understanding, and both of them foresaw each other's next words. Why go out to sea? Lex spoke, as if asking the Golden Lion, and as if asking his own heart. What is going out to sea for? The Golden Lion spoke almost simultaneously, wanting to guide Lex on his own path, even though Lex's strength was already very strong. After a moment of silence, the Golden Lion spoke first. Lex, just do what you want to do, persist, and then continue to pursue your own path. If you want to dominate the sea and become the king of the sea, I support you. The Flying Pirates are your support, and Red and Newgate will also support you. If you want to sail freely on this sea of freedom, then live freely, The Golden Lion's eyes were filled with light, and he looked at Lex with concentration. He was waiting for Lex's answer. He would not demand that Lex become a pirate, or that he must assist him in fulfilling his ambition to rule the world. He hoped that Lex would be free, which was the best blessing and support. Upon hearing the words of the Golden Lion, Lex's thoughts surged, and he immediately picked up the sherry in his hand, drank it all in one gulp, and then threw the bottle into the sea. In his past life, Lex was ordinary but not mediocre. He had his own path, knew his direction, pursued freedom, walked through life, and saw many unforgettable scenery in this life. Lex sets off once again. He has greater capital to play games and move forward. He yearns for the ocean and freedom. This time, he wants to reach the pinnacle and find true freedom. True freedom is not personal, it is the freedom of the world. Thinking of this, Lex's heart suddenly brightened. He suddenly pulled out 2 knives from his waist, crossing them horizontally in front of him. Firstly, attach a layer of dark blue spatial power, followed by a strong and powerful armed color that flows around. In the next moment, the iconic dark red lightning of the dominant color slowly emerges on the blade, and the dominant color entwines. Seeing and hearing colors spread, enveloping hundreds of nautical miles. Double blade flow, breaking God mirror flower water moon. Miso. A huge cross-slash shot out of the air in an instant, sometimes escaping into the void, sometimes condensing, emitting a faint blue halo. Suddenly, the cross-slash split into 2 narrow crescent-shaped flying slashes, one flying into the sky and the other straight into the sea. All of this was just an instant effort. The ocean, thousands of meters deep, was chopped into 2 pieces like tofu. The seabed was exposed, and seawater poured wildly back into the vacuum zone in the middle. The sea. The sky, on the other hand, was divided into 2 halves as if it had been combed into a central part. The air currents surged and the clouds rolled, forming a brief and intense precipitation that could not be seen at a glance. Cut off the sky. The sky and the sea have all cracked open. The celestial phenomena have been changed. Lex put away his knives, his arms spread horizontally, breathing in fresh air, mixed with the salty and humid atmosphere brought by the humid sea breeze. Lex responded to the words of the Golden Lion with action. The persistence of life and one's own path are in one's own hands. Right under my own feet. No matter what kind of choice you make, it's all your own path. Looking at the long unhealed ocean and clouds, as well as the huge sea king corpses constantly resurfacing after death, both of them coincidentally stopped and gazed into the distance. For a long time. So even if the first decade's plan is officially launched, Lex. Well, from the moment I set sail. Lex gave a faint response. Well, let's go out to sea. The Golden Lion lost his mind and murmured to himself. At this moment, the sun in the sky has just risen completely, and the sunrise shines on the sea. Now, it is dawn. Poison points of this book. The protagonist is very strong, but he has adopted Whitebeard as his adoptive father. I can only say that he doesn't have many roles, and different people have their own opinions too. The single female protagonist, Zhiyuan, has a slightly arrogant personality. I made some changes based on the reader's suggestions, and it won't be so annoying after chapter 120. This book is divided into 2 parts. Part of the unknown plot relies entirely on my imagination. For example, the character of the Golden Lion, many of whom were created by me, including all members of the Flying Pirates, except for Dr. Indigo, almost all of whom were original, such as Rhine, Agula's Gut, and Mon Larapepe. 2. The fruit is set for a second awakening, but it will not ruin the streets in the later stage. Even in the end, the second awakening is still very challenging. 3. The domineering setting of the concept of divine realm. For example, seeing and hearing about the domineering walking towards the other side of time, questioning the heart of life, breaking free from the shackles of space, chapter 15, 85, 103, 104, etc., the domineering, burning of domineering colors, chapter 105, etc. If you don't like it, you can curse casually, but please don't give a negative review. Everyone is reading for free, and I have never asked for any gifts from beginning to end. Thank you for your understanding. Chapter 2. Sleeping Ancient Town, Vampire Fruit. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Lex is in a different space, shuttling rapidly. The entire alien space is generally light blue, and if you gaze deep, you may occasionally see a dark blue halo. This is the ability that Lex developed from the day he ate the fruit. The alien space. More than a decade has passed, and it has become like an innate instinct, waving one's arm like a gesture. Moving in a different space consumes a lot of physical energy, and the sense of stagnation in space can cause physical energy to quickly flow away. However, it can greatly cross space and achieve spatial leaps. If it's Lex alone, he can instantly shuttle through the entire windless zone effortlessly. This is Superman's space fruit, the superior fruit of all space systems. A moment later, in the central waters of the New World, sleeping ancient town. A robust man with a height of 3.33 meters appeared in a corner of the town alley, with light golden hair hanging down his shoulders, a jade crown on his face, restrained but not lacking in charm in his eyes. His expression remained calm, or rather, he remained calm, and no emotions could be seen from his face. Leon Lex walked slowly out of the alley, but still avoided the sight of all pedestrians. The surroundings are very quiet, with sparse pedestrians and hurried footsteps on the road. The entire sleeping ancient town is almost silent except for a few crows chirping. Although it was daytime, it was shrouded in a deathly silence. Looking around, Lex noticed a middle-aged man in a tailcoat. Wearing a jazz top hat and holding a black umbrella, he looked like a nobleman. However, at this moment, he looked nervous and hurried forward with his head down, as if he was in a hurry to go somewhere. The pedestrians around him seemed to have seen the plague god and avoided him one after another, but they didn't say a word. They just lowered their heads and hurried on. Lex's figure weakened and entered a strange space, following behind this man. Unless his aura surpassed Lex himself, it was impossible for him to discover Lex. However, in Lex's perception, such a weak aura should not have awakened to the senses. Homer sometimes nods. Lex has always been steady and cautious. Even an ordinary aristocrat, Lex is hidden in a different space. Well, be cautious. If you announce your arrival in a grand manner, it doesn't make any sense. Silently following the noble man, Lex observed his expression as he walked along. Why did Lex set his sights on this man as soon as he arrived at Sleeping Town? Because on a street, his mood was the most complex, anxious, mixed with a hint of fear. Facial expressions can be disguised, but deep emotions within cannot deceive people. Lex could feel the emotions deep in his soul. His master had taught him this ability, but in fact, it was completely dependent on talent and fruit blessings. Teaching was not possible, but it happened that both the master and disciple knew it, and the master was a person who valued face, so he was called Teaching. This time, Lex stopped by Sleeping Ancient Town mainly to find fruit for his master. Master, you can't refuse it yourself, Lex thought, having already arrived at the destination with the noble man, an ancient church. Entering the hall, the dome is made of wood, but with the decay of time, it has become dilapidated and covered in spider webs. The hall is shrouded in darkness, with only a few scattered candles emitting a bit of light tenaciously. The aristocratic man seemed to be searching for something, pacing around without a clear direction, just a cold sweat constantly oozing from his forehead, indicating excessive nervousness and failure to find his target. Lex remained silent, his sight and hearing quietly spread, and he noticed two strange smells. Living or dead? Lex's heart twitched. It seems like he found a clue. Obviously, the owners of these two scents are related to the fruit that Lex is looking for. Suddenly, the lights in the church hall dimmed, and the only candles went out in an instant, causing darkness to invade. Ha, ha, ha. A strange sound came, and a figure suddenly appeared in the darkness, about 2 meters tall, with a uniform figure. In the darkness, one could vaguely see its body outline, humanoid, but its limbs twisted in a non-human way. This figure rushed towards the middle-aged nobleman at an extremely fast speed. In the darkness, the middle-aged nobleman's already tense emotions completely collapsed, and he knelt down on the ground, holding his head in both hands and shouting loudly. Please, 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 spare me. There is no blood left from virgins in the town anymore. I have executed all virgins for various reasons, and no one will believe me anymore. There is no blood left to offer you. The figure in the darkness seemed to be completely unnoticed, only speaking up, your daughter, bring over. Its voice was extremely hoarse, with a sound like steel rubbing against its throat. It spoke intermittently, as if it had not spoken for a long time. Upon hearing this, the middle-aged nobleman's face turned pale with fear, only stuttering, but she's not a virgin. Send over. Come, the figure in the darkness spoke again. But, The middle-aged nobleman wanted to continue evading, but unexpectedly, the figure in the darkness suddenly lifted his right arm and pierced through his chest, clean and sharp, with blood gushing out. The middle-aged nobleman, who had served the dark figure for many years, ended his life with a sentence of, but. Lex witnessed the whole process, but didn't make a move, just watched quietly. This living dead person doesn't seem to be a fruit power person, but rather a product generated by a power person using their abilities. It should be something similar to a blood slave, but the fruit. On another breath. Or maybe the timeline is indeed a long time ago, hasn't it appeared yet? It's now 1489, and there is indeed this possibility. Lex was full of doubts in his heart, but he still hid in a different space. Throughout the journey from landing to now, he did not make any sound. The blood slave picked up the body and started sucking blood from his neck, but after only taking a sip, he threw the body aside and made a dull thud, as if he was disliking the blood of a middle-aged aristocrat. Immediately, the blood slave turned around and walked towards the back of the hall. It needed a lot of time to sleep and survive. As for the blood, I will personally go hunting in town after waking up next time. With this thought in mind, the blood slave walked to his slumber, not the coffin that Lex had imagined, but a hidden room behind the hall in medieval Western European style. The blood slave walked in and prepared to fall asleep. But it was at this moment that Lex took action. Space convergence. The light blue space instantly enveloped the blood slave, transferring it into a different space, the home ground of Lex. Looking at the unfamiliar and strange environment around him, the blood slave finally lost his composure, panicked, and roared loudly. Who, you? Think, do. What? If you don't know how to speak, speak less. I'll ask you a question, otherwise you'll die. Lex's magnetic voice drifted through the space, but he didn't reveal his figure. Without waiting for the blood slave to continue roaring, Lex directly asked, "Are you a living person?" "Yes, but..." "Not really." "Yes, after being controlled by that bastard." It became like this. The blood slave seemed to recognize the situation, completely helpless in such a strange space, and could only try to answer Lex's questions intermittently. "Well, that's great. If you answer the question well, you might survive. The next question is, who is that bastard?" "It's the original aristocrat of this island, a rare ability, and that's how we were transformed by him." The blood slave seemed to have never said so much before, and his vocal cords gradually recovered and his speech became much smoother. "We. Are there others?" "Yes, but they all died slowly in a deep sleep. I was the last one, and I had long wanted to be liberated from this kind of being neither human nor ghost." "What about the nobles who controlled you? Are you dead?" Lex was more concerned about whether the previous fruit ability had already died. "He asked us to collect the blood of virgins, but it disappeared for almost 10 years. Where's the blood? Have you absorbed it?" "A portion of it has been absorbed, and most of it has been stored." It seemed that he knew what Lex was going to ask next, or if he really wanted to survive, so the blood slave then took the initiative to explain, "Those blood have been collected. In fact, we controlled people don't need much blood. And even if we absorb the excess blood, it's useless. Take me to the place where the blood is stored." Lex released the blood slave from the alien space and arrived at the door of the room just now. The blood slave landed on both feet and returned to the familiar place. His mood slightly calmed down, but he was still nervous to death. From beginning to end, he had never seen Lex's figure, and this cognitive gap made him feel extremely uneasy. "Lead the way." Lex's voice reached his ears. Upon hearing this, the blood slave immediately set off and walked towards the back of the hall. He stopped in front of a peeling wall, and when Lex saw this, he sensed a strong aura on the other side of the wall. He had a rough idea of the answer in his heart. The blood slave raised his hand and pushed towards a dark spot in front of him. Roaming and rumbling. The walls began to move, revealing the scene inside. Several female corpses scattered around the darkroom, dry and bony. In the center of the darkroom, there was a blood pool that occupied half the size of the room, filled with thick blood. Lex is still in a different space, but he can clearly see the scenery outside. He is waiting for the performance of the blood slave. Sure enough, the next moment, the blood slave shouted towards the back, "Sir, the place has arrived. This is the place where the bastard stores blood. You can come and take a look at this pool. Maybe there's something you want." Lex smiled slightly and did not refuse. His figure appeared in front of the blood slave for the first time, and his height of 3.33 meters in the darkroom was full of oppression. The blood slave was slightly stunned, and he did not expect Lex to be so young. However, he still approached Lex slightly, bowing and saying to Lex, "Sir, all I know is this pool. That bastard once said, when we fill the pool with the blood of the Virgin, he will give us back our freedom. That's why I've been collecting blood all these years. Lex asked in response, after all these years, has the blood remained the same, without drying up or solidifying? The blood slave was taken aback again, hesitated for a moment, and replied, I'm not sure, after he set up this pool, it's like this, maybe it's fruit ability. Lex continued to asking an unrelated question, what's your name? Ah. The blood slave didn't react for a moment, although full of doubts, he still respectfully replied. My name is Shilulu, my lord. Don't you come and take a look inside the pool. That bastard seemed to have set something up inside. Well, that's great. Lex walked towards Saruru, approaching the blood pool. Although it was only a few steps away, Saruru felt very excited. He finally succeeded. He deceived a powerful individual far beyond him, even though he had spatial abilities that he couldn't resist at all. He still succeeded. As long as Lex stood by the pool of blood, his master would kill him with one blow. Leaving his life here, no matter how strong it is, what's the use? It's too foolish, ahaha. Lex took another step, and Saruru felt even more proud in his heart. However, at that moment, Lex suddenly spoke up, Saruru, are you from Sleep Town? Ah. Yes. Well, I got it. In the next moment, pale blue ripples spread all over Zhiyulu's body, causing him to be terrified. He opened his mouth to speak, but felt the space around him frozen, motionless, and unable to speak. He turned into a puddle of minced meat and scattered on the ground. Lex remained expressionless and continued to move forward, constantly approaching the blood pool. Don't you come out and get to know the one below? Lex said. After speaking, Lex's domineering color suddenly pressed towards the blood pool, with dark red lightning mixed with a hint of deep blue. The walls inside the house instantly cracked, and cracks spread like spider webs. The airflow surged, the blood pool boiled, and the bottom of the pool was exposed. The figure of a woman appeared, completely naked, with blood-red eyes and black hair scattered haphazardly behind her head. Her eyes were fixed on Lex, revealing an undisguised murderous intent and fear. She stood up, seemingly completely unaware that she was not wearing clothes. She straightened her chest, clamped her legs, and said to Lex in a cold, lifeless voice. Why would a man of your level appear in Sleeping Town? I guess I've never provoked you before, said the black-haired woman, staring at Lex. You have a good figure, I quite like it. Lex nodded slightly, and a faint smile finally appeared on his expressionless face. Hey. The naked woman finally realized her embarrassment. With a wave of her hands, the scattered blood around her body turned into a blood-red cloak. As for whether there was any underwear inside the cloak, it was unknown. I was probably intimidated by Lex's dominant color, to the point where I didn't realize for a moment that I was not wearing clothes. The black-haired woman comforted me like this. Are you a vampire fruit powerhouse? Lex asked straightforwardly without beating around the bush. Sure enough, you came to take this fruit, but you came too late. As you can see, this fruit has already been eaten by me. Even if you kill me, it will be of no use. Your ability will be reborn in another corner that you don't know. Why don't you sit down and have a good conversation? Perhaps I can join you. The black-haired woman did not lose her sanity due to Lex's eerie spatial ability and powerful domineering color, but still spoke confidently. What's your name? Lex asked this question for the second time today, in the same location. It seemed that Lex had taken the initiative to ask for his name, probably to attract him. The black-haired woman replied, I'm Phoenicia, are we going to form a pirate group? I know a little bit of navigation, maybe I can help. Phoenicia kept recommending her abilities to Lex and increasing her chances of survival. In fact, she had already concluded in her heart that the tall, blonde man in front of her would definitely let herself board his ship, killing herself would be of no benefit and recruiting herself would give her a strong ability as a phantom beast or a beautiful woman with a first-class figure and appearance. Who wouldn't want it? This powerful captain seems quite reliable, and may not be the captain. In short, he is the boss of the future, but he cannot easily obtain himself. He needs to keep more chips. Phoenicia, are you also from Sleep Town? Lex asked a repeated question. Well, yes, Captain. That's great. Oh, by the way, I'm not a pirate, even though my elders are all pirates, Lex said calmly. Ah. So. Phoenix seemed to want to say more, but unfortunately, the space around her had already become stagnant, unable to move or speak. She didn't just turn into a pile of minced meat like Zhiyuan did, instead her body slowly disappeared from bottom to top. Phoenicia's blood-red eyes were fixed on Lex, filled with confusion and resentment and fear, as if she wanted to find more answers from Lex's indifferent expression. Unfortunately, her eyes also disappeared. The next moment, a fruit appeared out of thin air in Lex's hand, the size of a palm, resembling an apple, with dark purple eerie patterns distributed on the surface of the fruit. This is exactly Devil Fruit, Animal Series, Phantom Species, Bat Fruit, Vampire Form. Chapter 3. The End of the Sleeping Ancient Town Tour. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Lex collected the vampire fruit and placed it in the alien space. His alien space contains a lot of things, which can be said to be a portable space. There are many fresh fruits in it, which are in a state of time stagnation and do not decay in the alien space. However, if placed in humans or animals, they will die over time. When Lex was a child, he conducted these experiments under the guidance of his uncle, the Golden Lion, at the cost of killing many pirates. At the same time, Lex has developed a more incredible ability. The ability to recycle fruits 100%. Through the extremely special nature of spatial fruits, he is able to isolate a different dimensional space. After the death of a capable person, the abilities contained in the fruit have no escape, and can only be reborn on the fruit prepared by Lex in the nearby principle in the different dimensional space. In fact, using sea tower stones to isolate a confined space can also have a similar effect, but it is very difficult. Since then, Lex has been carrying these various types of fruits with him, including bananas, pineapples, apples, pitaya. This naturally makes sense. Even a natural type of dark fruit can recover the ability of devil fruit. It doesn't make sense for me to be a supernatural type. Yes, from the day Lex ate the fruit, he never thought to himself that what he had eaten was a superhuman fruit, clearly a demon fruit, animal type, phantom animal species, and spatial god form. However, it seems that Lex is not the son of fate. Time has gradually proven that he is indeed just an ordinary superhero. Until last year, in the year 1488 of the Zhiyuan calendar. Lex knows what a spatial fruit is. He awakened the fruit, ever since. Oh, so I'm a superhero, not a superhero, hahaha. Last year, New World, the headquarters of the Flying Pirates, was located on an empty island 10,000 meters above New World. Hey, Lex, are you really capable? Don't really beat you to death. No one will take care of me anymore. The Golden Lion held a cherry blossom and a withered wood, with a playful expression on its face, watching Lex lying on the ground not far away, bleeding profusely, and on the brink of death. Shiki, shouldn't we make another cut at this time? Lex just told us himself. The Red Count said to the Golden Lion with a wicked smile on his face. Rider, don't joke at this time. It's fortunate that you're still Lex's master. What if you really kill him? I didn't even save my hands on Kongjin just now. The concern in Whitebeard's eyes was the most genuine, because this tall man, with blonde limited edition white beard, was well aware of how terrifying his full blow could be. Moreover, just now these three legendary pirates were all working hard at the same time, and the damage they dealt faintly exceeded the limit of this sea. They didn't receive this treatment when Locks fought in Death Valley. The three of them once again focused their gaze on Lex, who was covered in blood. Two swords were scattered on both sides of his body, lying motionless on the ground, seeming to have lost his breath. The sea breeze blew quietly, and the golden hair on Lex's temples swayed gently in the wind. From the beginning of the battle until now, in less than an hour, Lex was on the brink of death. At a height of 10,000 meters above sea level, he was once again pushing his limits. The last time was when Roger, Whitebeard, and Raleigh attacked Lex while awakening their dominance. This is the last solution that Lex came up with after practicing hard but still unable to awaken his fruit ability. Courage and faith. Commonly known as committing suicide. Every huge breakthrough comes with a fatal outcome. This time, he had his three elders launch a full-scale attack on him. Because one person doesn't have much pressure, it's 5 to 5. Two people can barely cope with it with their incredible fruit-like abilities, with a chance of survival. The words of three legendary pirates, well, Yi and Sun Kai, besides death, are the fruits of awakening. Now, time seems to have slowed down countless times, and under the perception of the three legendary pirates, Lex's breath has become extremely weak. Ha hoo hoo hoo, hoo hoo. Lex's chest suddenly began to rise and fall, and he gradually regained his breath. He began to pant, struggling to get up from the beach, and picked up two matching knives again. One Qin Yu Kong and Bu Diyu Soul. All of them are one of the 12 workers of the supreme sharp knife. He barely propped up his body with a knife, looked up slightly, and looked over at the three legendary pirates, gazing at the clear blue sky, where the sun was emitting light and heat. Lex exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and blood continued to flow from the wounds covering his entire body. However, Lex's eyes became more determined, filled with madness, and he wanted to give it a real try. He stood up straight, and deep in his eyes, a brilliant blue light burst out. Immediately after, his body emitted a deep blue radiance, and his body gradually faded away. Slowly, only a blue humanoid light and shadow remained, and even the two matching knives in Lex's hand gradually faded away. Especially in the vast expanse of blue sky, a deep blue blade burst forth, shining in harmony with the azure sky. In the next moment, the domineering dark red lightning spewed out like a river breaking its banks, shooting towards all sides and then instantly gathering and wrapping around Lex. Lex, transformed into a dark blue light and shadow, surrounded by a constantly flickering dark red dominant arc. His breath at this moment startled the three people not far away. Because the three legendary pirates could no longer sense Lex's aura in their sight and smell. Even though he was standing there, he couldn't feel the presence of this person in space at all. It seemed that in another space, no matter how strong the sight and smell were, they couldn't sense it anymore. Hey, Rider, can't you even perceive what you see and hear? Whitebeard looked at the Red Count and exclaimed, his eyes filled with excitement and joy. Although it was different from his awakening of the trembling fruit, it was definitely the awakening of the space fruit. Upon hearing this, the Red Count did not answer. In the next moment, a glimmer of red light flashed in his eyes, causing him to panic. He quickly shouted, Shiki, hurry up. Let all the doctors come over, hurry up, let all those with healing abilities come over too. Hurry up, Lex is really dying. Ah. Although the Golden Lion did not see such a distant future, he knew that the Red Count was definitely seeing further than him. He immediately shot out and rushed towards another empty island at an extremely fast speed. In less than 2 minutes, the Golden Lion arrived here with a large group of people. At this moment, all the light around Lex suddenly dissipated, revealing his bloody body inside. His eyes were empty and he fell behind him. The Red Count seemed to teleport and dodged behind Lex, catching him. Doctor, hurry up. Marco, quickly use your abilities to maintain your Lex brother's aura, quickly. Whitebeard roared. End the memory. After collecting the fruits, Lex looked at the chaotic scene in the dark room and shook his head slightly. Shilulu's acting skills are decent, and in this world of average intelligence moving pirates, it is quite remarkable. Phoenicia's strength is also very strong. Under her domineering aura, she can still maintain clarity, at least with the strength of a naval lieutenant, let alone the vampire Fruit, with a full range of endurance. Unfortunately, with the blessing of Fruit and talent, Lex's vision and demeanor are enough to penetrate people's hearts, unless the opponent's dominance is strong, so Saruru can only be like a clown, appearing ugly on stage. Phoenix also had no resistance and disappeared into this world. As for why Phoenix collected virgin blood, it doesn't matter whether Shilulu's words are true or false. The thoughts of ants are not very important. The trip to sleeping ancient town ends here. It is worth noting that Saruru became the first person Lex had killed since he officially set sail, while Phoenix was the first woman to kill and also a rare creature with abilities. So, Lex asked about their names and hometown, and returning to their roots after falling leaves is very important. Leave sleeping ancient town. Lex continued to shuttle rapidly through the outer space and arrived at the core area of the central waters of the New World, the territory of the legendary pirate Whitebeard. Chapter 4. Past and Present. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 5. The Whitebeard Pirates. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. As the sun sets in the west, the Mobidic Whitebeard sat upright in the captain's chair, drinking heavily. In the next moment, a light blue glow appeared in the space on the right side of Whitebeard, revealing Lex's figure. Lex changed into a new outfit, replacing his blue-green kimono with a blue cape coat with a Whitebeard logo on both sides of the cape. Eurasia, Dad, Sasabalada, long time no see. Lex looked at the white-bearded man sitting in the captain's chair and greeted him. Kololalala, Lex, I heard you have officially set sail. Whitebeard threw a large jar of wine at Lex beside him, and he also took a big sip of the wine into his mouth. Lex took the half-sized wine jar with one hand and sat cross-legged across from Whitebeard. Well, it was indeed going out to sea, but it wasn't that formal, only Uncle was present, he said. What did Shiki say to prevent you from joining his flying pirates, asked by Beard. Uncle didn't mention this matter, and besides, didn't he agree with you? Even if I go out to sea, I definitely shouldn't be a pirate, Lex replied. Kuralala, what are you going out to sea for? Is it possible that you also want to rule the world? Like Shiki, it's impossible for you, kid. Whitebeard laughed and continued drinking. How could that be? It's better to leave that extremely boring thing to Uncle to do. Besides, it won't succeed no matter how you think about it. He can't even rule the pirates of the New World, Lex continued, taking a sip of wine. If Ski knew his nephew was saying this to him, I don't know what he would think, Kololalala. Upon hearing Lex say that to Ski, Whitebeard was very happy. Lex is exactly the same as he thought. The man of Lex has not achieved his ambition of world domination. Ah, so these words are only meant for you and your master to hear. I dare not directly tell my uncle to be a legendary pirate. Pirates are always restless, Lex said with a hint of emotion. Is a pirate always restless? Kurala, a free sea man is never bound. Whitebeard laughed heartily and took a big sip of wine. Dad, are you really free from constraints? What about my little brothers? Lex turned his head and looked at the other white-bearded sons who were preparing for the party. Kololala, lovely family members are treasures, not restraints. Besides, as long as I'm here, no one dares to harm you, said Beard arrogantly. Lex smiled slightly and did not continue speaking. But at this moment, what he was thinking in his heart was that as long as I was there, the Whitebeard pirates would never fall. Even though he may not be a member of the Whitebeard pirates, he is the son of Whitebeard. Dad, have you found a new family recently? I remember I haven't been to the New World for 2.5 months, Lex looked up and smiled at Whitebeard. Ah, yes, look at the kid behind you with two western swords slung around his waist, Bista. How's it going, isn't it good, Kerala? Whitebeard excitedly introduced to Lex. From the moment Lex boarded the ship, he noticed this skinny but strong, dark young man, tied in a ponytail, without a top hat or the iconic beard of 30 years, but wearing an open-cut dress, exuding a sword-like aura. Hey, Bista. It's our first time meeting, hello. Lex stood up, extended his right hand, and greeted Bista. Brother Lex, this is our first time meeting. Please take good care of us. Bista was somewhat flattered. He had been on the ship for over a month and had heard Marco and his team talk about this Lex big brother no less than 100 times. What is the nephew of the pirate leader, the Golden Lion? His master is the legendary Red Earl of Solitude, and also the first son of his father. And his strength is very strong. It is said that he can fight against his father without a tie, standing at the pinnacle of the sea at the age of only 20, and is truly a big shot. He also treats people very gently, and is like a real family member with the members of the white-bearded pirates. It's a bit unbelievable that such a person should actively shake hands with themselves. It should be said that he truly deserves to be the big brother Lex. A good swordsman, he's very imposing. Let's have some time to spar. Lex looked at the two western swords around Bista's waist and smiled slightly. Really? Please make sure to guide me, thank you very much. Bista knew that the Lex big brother in front of him was a serious double swordsman, different from the kind of dad who, although wielding the supreme fast sword, was skilled in breaking through all obstacles with one go. Kulalala, come over for a banquet, two stinky kids. Beard urged, and at this moment, Saki pushed the dining cart over, with food constantly being delivered from behind. Marco and a few others brought in dozens of barrels of fine wine. It's been a long time since I've tasted Saki's craft, I'm a bit excited. Lex patted the honest Saki on the shoulder. Please enjoy it to your heart's content. The biggest challenge for me is to make sure my diners are full, said Sachai excitedly. Kulalala, little ones, to celebrate your official departure from the sea, Lex big brother has held a banquet. Beard stood up, holding Song Yunchi in his hand, and loudly said that he could always find a suitable reason to hold a banquet. Oh. A group of people immediately gathered together and began the banquet. Lex, come to our Whitebeard pirates after you go out to sea. After you join us, we will definitely become stronger. The young pony approached and said with a lively expression. What are you talking about, Marco? What a fool. Don't you even think about who Lex's uncle is. If you want to join, you should first choose the flying pirates. Honest Saki suddenly appeared beside the two of them, and his greatest pleasure seemed to be cooking and mocking Pony. Bastard, why is it you again? Hurry up and get over and cook. Who can eat enough of this? Marco looked angry. It's a bit rough, Saki left with his hands behind his back. I won't join Uncle's pirate group anymore. I don't plan to be a pirate this time I'm going out, but I might often come to the Mobidic to have banquets with everyone, Lex said to Marco as he drank. Hey! Shouldn't going out to sea be considered a pirate? We all have a great time sailing together every day. Marco exclaimed in surprise that for Pony at this time, being in the Whitebeard pirates could be a very happy time. So Marco, you need to exercise well. Only by being strong enough can you protect this beauty, Lex said to Marco. Isn't there Dad and brother Lex with you? Besides, my profession is a ship doctor. Marco touched the pineapple head. At this time, Little Ma doesn't seem to have had any heart-wrenching experiences, perhaps the original timeline had to wait until 31 years later. In the Top War of 1520, after Pony lost everything, Whitebeard Dad died in front of him, and Ace fell to the ground powerlessly. The white ball disintegrated, and at that moment, Marco hated himself for not having the strength to change all of this. I'll tell you first that my next visit to the Mobidic should be in 3 months. If you don't have the strength to defeat a rear admiral, Dad won't be able to protect you. Lex smiled slightly, his eyes extremely dangerous, and looked at Marco, saying, "Hey. But I'm only 14 years old, Lex. Isn't that too difficult for me?" Marco had an uncomfortable expression on his face. You know, Brother Lex's punishment was definitely not easy. Ha, your undead bird Fruit is a phantom beast species, and your father has a dignified white beard. Do you think your starting point is not good, or is there no one to guide you? But even so, defeating a rear admiral or something is not something I can do for the time being. I don't even know how to proficiently use armed colors now. So it's even more important to practice hard. Dad will also grow old, although it's far away from you, it doesn't mean that day won't come. I hope you can become stronger, the stronger the better. If you have the strength of a naval general, even if Dad grows old, no one will dare to bully our family, right? Lex said seriously. Marco fell silent. I know you're still very young, and I don't want to put so much pressure on you, but you should know that under my knowledge, currently only you and the entire Whitebeard pirates have such a talent. Even if you're just an apprentice pirate now, I hope that in 30 years' time, the Mobidic can be hidden under your wings. Do you understand? Lex spoke with great care, and the white-bearded man in the distance was drinking alone, but his sight and demeanor were all focused on this place. Promise him, Marco, for the next 3 months, follow me for cultivation, and I will personally guide your domineering spirit. The voice of Whitebeard suddenly reached Marco's stunned ear. Marco calmed down. Taking a deep breath, standing up, the young pineapple-head's small face showed the most serious expression in her life. I know now, in 3 months, I will definitely have the strength to defeat a rear admiral. Alright, don't be so serious anymore. Let's continue drinking, but Marco, for a young kid like you, it's better to drink juice, Lex joked. Aren't you just 6 years older than me, Sachai? Bring me some wine, I'm going to compete with Brother Lex for alcohol tolerance, Marco shouted. Oh, isn't this the future Captain Marco? I still have to live under your wings. I need to get you some wine quickly, Honest man Saki once again mercilessly mocked. Bastard. You eavesdropped again, I have to teach you a lesson today. Marco chased after him, and Lex watched as he shook his head and smiled, walking towards Whitebeard. Chapter 6. Father and Son. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lex walked towards Whitebeard, still holding unfinished rum in his hand. Behind them was a lively group of white-bearded pirates, gathered around the campfire, holding wine bottles and grilled meat, singing the pirate song, The Wine of Binks, loudly as the end of the banquet. Yo ho 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 ho, yo ho 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 ho. Send you the fine wine of Binks, riding the wind and breaking the waves, let me swim. The tide is surging, and the sunset is stirring foolishly. The singing of birds cuts through the sky, farewell to the port, unforgettable homesickness, sing a song to express emotions, the surging waves and splashing waves, a dignified man traverses the ends of the earth and the sea. Send you the fine wine of Binks, on the ocean, we, the pirates, lead the way. Waves like pillows, warships like nests, the skull flag fluttered in the wind, the sound of wind and thunder rising in the vast sky, the waves dance and the war drums rumble, tomorrow, it will rain and clouds will scatter. A handsome man is not afraid of difficulties and obstacles, yo ho 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 ho. Yo ho 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 ho. Send you the fine wine of Binks, last night and tonight, I searched in my dream. The person who bid farewell gradually drifted away. Gathering again on the night of a full moon, send you the fine wine of Binks, sing the song of the sea loudly, life is short, and things are hard to predict. Tonight, there's wine. Tonight, I'm drunk. Lex strolled through it, and everyone singing drifted towards an unknown distance with the sea breeze. A few dark clouds at night happened to obscure the moonlight. The sky is full of stars, the sea is silent, the waves are gentle, and the night is already deep. Lex took a deep breath of the humid night air and sat next to the captain's white-bearded chair. Dad, the banquet is over. Aren't you going back to the captain's cabin to rest? Lex put down the bottle and asked. Well, please sit with me for a while longer. The corners of the Whitebeard's mouth curved slightly, and his wavy golden hair swayed gently in the wind, gazing at the sea under the starlight, seemingly enjoying it. Oh, by the way, Dad, today I asked Marco to practice seriously and made an agreement with him to defeat a rear admiral in 3 months. You don't mind, do you? Lex asked thoughtfully. I agreed, didn't I? I also asked what to do with this. Although that's not wrong, I always feel like you're not very happy, Dad. Is it your perception of seeing and hearing again? Whitebeard glanced at Lex to the left. I guess so, but I don't think the Whitebeard pirates have the best combat power like you, Dad. Marco has a high talent and can overcome that threshold through hard work and cultivation. Lex picked up the bottle and took a sip of rum. If the children need to fight on the front line, what is my father? I will protect you very well, even if you no longer need my protection, Lex. Whitebeard's expression became serious. It's just because of this unhappiness. I didn't even peek into my dad's inner thoughts just now, I just sensed his emotions, so I guess it's wrong. But Dad, do you believe in fate? Lex looked straight into Whitebeard's eyes from the side. Fate. There must be that kind of thing, but I only believe in fate that I like. Whitebeard said calmly, still gazing at the sea without looking at Lex. I see, Dad. In more than 30 years' time, Dad, you will launch a top-notch war and die at the Navy headquarters, using your life to push the new era to its climax. The Whitebeard pirates will also fall apart and withdraw from the era. Lex said directly, without any concealment or consideration of the consequences. Whitebeard fell silent for a moment before suddenly laughing. Kuralala, did you die in battle in the new era? That kind of thing, let's talk about it in 30 years. According to your suggestion, I can still live for another 30 years, which is already very good. By the way, what about Marco and his team? Whitebeard looked at Lex, noticeably more concerned about his family than his own life and death. Marco will survive, but many families have stayed in Marinfando forever. There was a moment of silence. Is that so, Lex? I believe what you're saying, you've never been a kid who loves to joke. Whitebeard continued to gaze at the sea, wanting to lift the wine jar, but felt that the fine wine was no longer delicious. No one would feel uncomfortable hearing his family die in battle, let alone Whitebeard. Dad, I'm saying these things to tell you that maybe they can change. What do you want to do? Whitebeard asked, knowing that Lex had said so much with the intention of leading to the next words. As expected, Lex immediately said. Cultivate the top combat power of the Whitebeard pirates, expand their influence, form alliances with uncles, cultivate dark lines, enter high-level naval and world government positions, lay out naval branches across the 4 seas, unify the underground world, drive the Navy out of the New World, compress naval power within the amusement park, develop technology, and establish a lunar base. Lex said a lot and talked endlessly. He only talked to the Golden Lion privately, and at that time, the Golden Lion couldn't help but praise him. He laughed loudly and said that he deserved to be my nephew, asking Lex to let go. Whitebeard listened to these words, and the more he listened, the more he felt uneasy. It's like what a pirate should do before, isn't a pirate just burning, killing, and looting? A better pirate speaks of benevolence and righteousness, collects protection fees, and actually provides you with protection, which is safer than some islands protected by the Navy, although such pirates are rare. But what Lex said about the plan became increasingly outrageous, completely unlike what a pirate group should do. In fact, it's not the fault of the Whitebeard. In this so-called old era, most pirates were very conservative and traditional pirates. Even if someone wants to subvert the world, they can at most reach the level of rocks, entangle with a group of monsters, and attack the Tianlong people. In fact, Lox did the right thing. In this world of pirates where great power is concentrated, this method is simple and efficient, but the fault tolerance is too low. As long as the strength is slightly inferior, it will be shattered, so Lox disappeared in the long river of history. But what about Lex? When he saw what a truly peaceful and prosperous era was, and after time had calmed down, he came to a dark and chaotic world. You should know that he has never been an indigenous person. Influenced by the distorted values of this world, he has been a traveler since childhood, with a mature mind, complete thoughts, and independent soul. He has his own set of values and worldview. Although he may not have experienced many hardships, time has passed and he has also gone through many years. 2 generations of people. He knows what peace is, what corruption is, and what freedom is. Along the way, he no longer cared much about the insignificant things in life and was greedy for temporary wealth. False power. Or is it the beauty of a red and pink skull? No, his name is Leon Lex, a person who dreams of changing the world. Perhaps with Lex's current strength and status, he could live a more luxurious life than the Dragon Man of Maria, but he is Leon Lex, perhaps the only traveler in this world. He changed the world just because he wanted to do so. This is his pursuit. In this process, he felt unprecedented freedom. In this struggle, he felt the weight of his life, the meaning of his life, the pulse of the times, and the wind of fate. So, Dad, will you support me? Lex lifted his head and looked straight at Whitebeard. You should have had these plans a long time ago, right? Well, my uncle and I referred to it as the first 10-year plan, which officially began from the moment I set sail. What is the ultimate goal? Reshape the world. Kolalalala, although it sounds unbelievable, because you are my son, having such a reason is enough. Let go and do it, I am a Whitebeard. Hahaha, then Dad, please look forward to this world turning upside down. Chapter 7. My wife's name is Zhiyuan. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. In the early morning, at dawn, the orange-red dawn began to bloom in the distant sky. In no time, half of the sky had already fainted, and the colorful clouds and waves reflected a charming radiance. On the deck of the Mobidic, a group of people gathered together to bid farewell to Lex. Dad and everyone, I'll go to my master's place first and come back to visit everyone in 3 months. Lex was in mid-air, suspended and stagnant, his blue cloak swaying in the wind. He waved goodbye to Whitebeard and the people behind him. Kolalala, hurry up and leave. If you encounter any problems that cannot be solved, remember to contact me through the phone worm. Whitebeard looked at Lex and laughed loudly, saying that telephone worms are now quite common in the sea, but of course, most civilians are not among them. Brother Lex, I will definitely work hard to cultivate. Next time I come over, I will defeat a rear admiral. Marcona's usually calm face was rarely excited. Brother Lex, remember to agree to my swordsmanship guidance, Bista shouted loudly. Next time I come home, I'll let you try the new cuisine I'm developing, Brother Lex, said Saki. Lex, remember to help me bring back the new DKP dress from West Sea next time you come back. At this moment, Wickham was still on the main ship Mobidic with Whitebeard. She was very much looking forward to the dark blue dress that Lex's wife usually paid attention to, so Lex learned a lot from it. At this banquet, he promised Wickham to bring her back with the latest model as a gift. I remember everything everyone said, so everyone should take care of themselves. Lex's figure gradually faded, emitting a light blue glow. Brother Lex also needs to take extra care and remember to bring his sister.in.law over to sit down when you have time. We haven't seen her yet, the crowd shouted with a smile. Haha, definitely next time, everyone, take care. Lex's figure had completely disappeared, leaving only his voice echoing over the Mobidic. This is the Shampoo Islands, located in the middle of the Great Route, backed by the Red Earth continent, and close to the naval headquarters of Marinfando. The island is composed of 79 huge, alki vine mangrove trees, which are divided into 79 islands with different numbers. It is the largest group of mangrove trees in the world, and due to their exposed roots on the water surface for years, it forms the Shambhodri Islands. The biggest feature of the Shambhodri Islands is the special natural resin secreted by the roots of the Aramaic mangrove tree through respiration, which is called bubbles. After the resin comes into contact with air, it expands and forms bubbles that fly into the sky. As long as the bubbles are in a climate range suitable for the growth of the Asian vine mangrove tree, they will maintain strong toughness and stability. So, from this, the Shampoo Islands have formed the largest bubble culture circle in Qinghai, with bubble cars, bubble Ferris wheels, houses built on bubbles, and using bubbles to move things. In short, bubble culture permeates every corner of Shampoo. Due to the fact that the Shampoo Islands are backed by the Red Earth continent and close to Marinfando, they are very safe. Therefore, Maria's world noble, Tianlong people often come down to Earth to play. If there is demand, there will be a market. In the Tianlong people, where slave culture was prevalent, a new batch of slaves had to be replaced every time they descended to Earth. Therefore, the Shambhodri Islands were also a famous, talent trading market for the Great Shipping Route. Commonly known as a human trafficking hub. This is the Shampoo Islands. A paradise for the rich, a birthplace for slave traders, a paradise for pirates and gangs, and a hell for the poor. Under the colorful sunlight refracted by the brilliant bubbles, countless human tragedies are unfolding. This is the real world of pirates, extremely dark. It is not a happy adventure story of the second generation of pirates, nor is it the Nika legend of liberation warriors arranged by called Fate. What has happened for 800 years has mostly been so dark and cruel. At this time, Island 66 is the location of the naval branch. Lex is sitting at the reception desk, receiving a registration inquiry from a female Navy officer. So, Mr. Lex, you're a naval family member, right? Yes, Ms. Roche, Lex smiled. Okay, your wife Zhiyuan, a lieutenant colonel from the Navy headquarters and the head of the Shampoo 3rd Duty Unit, is on her way here. Please wait a moment. If you don't mind, please have a cup of tea to rest. Roche answered to Lex while pouring tea for him. In my heart, I am extremely obsessed with flowers. Is Colonel Yuan's husband so handsome? Fortunately, he is tall and speaks so gently. He is truly a Colonel Yuan's man. He is talented and beautiful, perfect for heaven and earth. I believe he is the right person. Upon hearing the voice of the Navy girl in front of him, Lex habitually listened to the voices of those he was not very familiar with. For those whom Lex recognized, he rarely used this kind of visual expression. Isn't it too boring to live like that? He just continued to smile lightly, savoring the tea in his cup, and quietly waited for the arrival of the garden. Speaking of Lex and Moyuan, we can trace back to the years when Lex practiced in the West Sea. Lex, fighting against stronger swordsmen is the effective way to understand swordsmanship. Fighting alone with me is not enough to comprehend the myriad swordsmanship in this world, let alone walk your own path. In the next year, you will start from the West Sea, travel across the 4 seas and great routes, constantly challenge stronger swordsmen, constantly hone your swordsmanship and dominance, and walk the path that best suits you. The Red Count rarely says so much at once, and when discussing with Lex, it is mostly Lex who speaks and the Red Count listens. Today he said so much for the first time, just to determine Lex's path of cultivation for the next year. Embarking on a journey to challenge the world. More than half a year has passed, and Lex is now 16 years old. Beihai, the famous Kendo Dojo. Tingyu Dojo. Lex, you have fully integrated your will and domineering spirit into the slash, and have explored the realm of the great swordsman. There is nothing else you can teach here, but I have one last thing to ask for, said Suki, the curator of the Rain Dojo. Mr. Tsukiki, please say that I will do my best. Mr. Tsukiki in front of me is both a teacher and a friend, and he is a noble person in Lex's life. I am about to die, and from your perspective, you should be able to feel it. You already know that I come from the country of He. Back then, a group of people from He went out to sea and wandered around, including me. According to you, Gung Sanlang has now settled in the East China Sea. As you can see, I have also settled in the North Sea. However, after all, it is difficult to resist time. Even the martial god of He, the Dragon Slayer, Frost Moon Dragon Horse, has ultimately lost to time. Besides, I have one thing to do before my death, which is my daughter. Zhiyuan. Her mother has long been defeated by time. She passed away and accompanied me on a sea voyage since I was young, but now she is only 14 years old. Although she has entered the realm of swordsmanship, she is still a woman and it is difficult to establish herself in the sea. I want to entrust her to you and let her sail with you on this vast sea. You are a trustworthy man. Please, Lex, let's take it as our reward for practicing swordsmanship with you in the past few months. Tori said seriously. On the side, a girl-like figure knelt and sat beside the Torea tree, sobbing uncontrollably. Father, I don't want to leave you. I can do it. I can continue to stay at the Listening Rain Dojo. I will work hard to cultivate and become stronger. I will also become a great swordsman like Lex. Father, I don't want to leave you, I don't want to follow Lex out to sea. The tears in the garden were like pear blossoms, and I choked up while holding on to the Torea tree. The life and death separation of my loved ones and the drifting journey far away from my hometown were still too distant and heavy for a 14-year-old girl, even if she was a genius kendo girl who had already entered the realm of swordsmanship. Tsukiki hugged his daughter, stroked the back of her head, and whispered, Father knows, but Zhiyuan, Father really can't continue to accompany you. This may be cruel to you, but you must grow up as soon as possible. Zhiyuan, grow up as soon as possible, follow Lex's side, and he will continue to protect you for me. Woo-woo, but... Zhiyuan was sobbing, almost unable to catch her breath. Lex, promise me that you will take good care of her. Although it may be a bit difficult, you are the best choice. Cedarwood picked up a garden hand and handed it to Lex. Torea tree has been wandering in the sea for many years, knowing clearly what is the most important thing in this sea area. Power. No matter how much wealth and power there may be, without corresponding strength, it is just a castle in the air and a mirage, difficult to sustain. Only strong strength can stand firm in this vast sea. And Lex, at the age of only 16, has a calm personality and treats people gently. The most important thing is that he possesses unparalleled power. At the age of only 16, he approaches the pinnacle of the ocean. What about 20 years old? 25 years old? What about a more distant future? Unimaginable. Only this kind of man can protect Gion. Upon hearing this, Lex remained silent. He looked at the hand handed over by Toriyaji, his eyes complex. He knew very well who the young and beautiful girl in front of him was, only Yuan, the future naval alternate general. Peach Rabbit, the first female swordsman in the Navy, and the ceiling of naval female combat power after Rear Admiral He, the Chief of Staff of the Navy. He is more aware of his current identity. Although he is not a pirate, is there a difference? Is it possible for him to stand in front of the 5 old stars, steel-bone sky, and say that he wants to join the Navy? His background is too complex, and he even has intricate connections with world governments. But fundamentally, it's the enemy. Even if the Golden Lion hides Lex's identity well, what if one day it leaks out? Is the sea known to all? The nephew of the Golden Lion and the disciple of the Red Count. Don't joke, for the world, as long as they know Lex's identity, even his existence itself is the greatest sin. Even if he has never done the wrong thing that a pirate should do. And let Zhiyuan follow such a dangerous man, what's the difference with sheep entering the tiger's mouth? But Lex also knew that he didn't do meaningless evil just because he didn't want to do it, and it was not necessary. But fundamentally, Lex is also a man who can do whatever he wants. He does what he likes to do. What if one day this thing touches the interests of the world government? Lex hesitated for a moment and said, "Mr. Tsukiki, I'm sorry I didn't tell you something." Tsukiki's eyes were puzzled. Lexton paused and continued, "My uncle is the Golden Lion, Leon Ski, the great pirate of the New World, the commander of the Flying Pirates, and my master is the Red Count, Barorik Leadfield, also a great pirate. Moreover, my background is somewhat complicated, with some of the dragon people's bloodline." After saying these words, Lexton felt much more relaxed. Toreya fell silent. He has been wandering the sea for many years, and naturally knows who these two men are, what they represent, and what the Tianlong people represent. "Lex, I'm asking you, are you a pirate? Or have you ever done a pirate act?" Tsukiki looked up again and asked Lex. "Mr. Tsukiki, I know what you mean, but I can't comply with the matter of only the garden. Pirates are the debris of the sea, and no matter how strong they are, they cannot change this fact." Lex shook his head gently. "Lex, do you know why I left the land of peace?" Without waiting for Lex to answer, Tsukiki continued speaking on his own. At that time, a huge conflict erupted in the country of He over the issue of founding a nation. Due to the intervention of the world government, a large number of people died in the end, and it was not resolved. As a result, I followed the ship that set sail and left the country of He. Many years later, I accidentally learned that the intervention of the world government seemed to be because He had something capable of destroying the world. In order to maintain their rule, they did everything they could to the extreme. More years later, as the ship wandered on the sea, I gradually realized that it was not about justice or evil, but rather a different stance. Lex, if you were a descendant of some little pirate, it would be fine, but you happen to be the heir of the Golden Lion and the Red Count. I know exactly what kind of power this is, but I hope you don't let the garden get involved. Please, Lex." Tsukiki stood up and bowed to Lex. Lex is at war with nature in his heart. He is a very responsible man, and he will do his best to complete what he promises, even if he wavers in his position. At this moment, Lex made up his mind to do this. To protect the Gion. In short, it is impossible to refuse. However, bringing only the garden to one's own side also proves that the fate line of the world is changing at the same time. Lex stood up, took the little hand of the garden, looked at Cedarwood, and said seriously, "I, Leon Lex, swear in the name of my swordsman that as long as I breathe, the garden will be safe. Here, strike the sword as an oath." Lex picked up one of his two supporting swords. One Qin Yukong, and pulled out a palm-sized blade. Seeing this, Toriyaji also picked up his supporting swords. Junpyro, and pulled out a palm-sized blade. The two of them looked at each other for a long time. At the next moment, the double swords are unsheathed. Chang. Zhiyuan's tears welled up in her eyes, tightly holding Lex's hand and staring blankly at the scene before her, which became a very important memory of her life. Chapter 8. From Twilight to Night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 9. Night in Shampoo Land. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On Island 36, Lex and Gion strolled hand in hand under the night light. On both sides of the street are rows of shops, including taverns, hotels, clothing stores, and storage shops. Occasionally, girls from the red light area can be seen soliciting customers under the street lights. Lex's half-godmother. Study's industrial chain has gradually expanded from the New World to a paradise. 9 years later, when the era of the great pirates arrived, the era went berserk, the number of pirates increased dramatically, and as a result, there were more girls who fell asleep. The red light district will take it to the next level. Oh, Lex, I want to eat that. Zhiyuan pointed to the octopus barbecue stall not far ahead and excitedly pulled Lex's arm. My Royal Highness Princess, do you know how much Bailey you spent on me tonight? A total of 3.256 million Bailey. You feel your conscience and ask, do you earn so much for a year in the Navy? Lex was speechless. Hey! How could there be so much? I don't feel like I've eaten much. Are you tired of strolling and don't want to be with me anymore? There's no love left. Zhiyuan turned around, turned his back to Lex, and gambled his way. Do you want to take a look at this dress worth 2.999 million yuan? It's clearly an IQ tax. What kind of sapphire embedded in the starry sky, an eternal proof of love? You would even buy something that looks like a fool. Lex took out a magnificent blue dress from a different space. Why don't you remind me? Didn't I crazily suggest to you at that time? My sight and hearing heard that the person was an unscrupulous businessman, but you pretended not to see. Hey, do you have it? So do you love me, Lex? Love, what's wrong? What's wrong with asking you to buy me a dress as proof of love? Anyway, you don't need that little money, said Zhiyuan indifferently. But almost every time you go shopping, you buy this kind of IQ tax. Money is not created like this. Lex excitedly said that in front of Guion and the others, Lex has two different personalities, not so steady. Perhaps this is also a natural release, only when he is by the side of the closest person. Stop talking nonsense. I want to eat octopus braised, go buy it quickly. Zhiyuan gave Lex a white glance. Good Lex helplessly turned around and walked towards the octopus barbecue stall. Take care of your own wife. If it weren't for Lex's 10-year plan being imperative, he wouldn't have been willing to let only Yuan join the Navy again, but he really needed a future Navy with the highest combat power. Arrive at the octopus barbecue stall. Boss, I'll have 20 portions of the signature octopus braised, 10 with spicy and 10 without spicy, Lex said as he looked at the octopus man in front of him. Is this from Fishman Island? Octopus Fishman. Xiaoba was born, not yet, probably not yet. Besides, Uncle Raleigh is still so young now. Lex muttered to himself, the octopus man in front of him had an honest face, looking like Little Eight's father. After all, the octopus man's incredible operation of selling octopus barbecue was also considered a traditional craft. But for Lex, it's not that important. The entire Mermaid Island is worth Lex's attention, only one of the 3 ancient weapons that has not yet been born. The Sea King, Mermaid Princess, and White Star. The core of Lex's next decade plan is to acquire the power of ancient weapons. At this moment, a hand knife rushed from behind Lex and hit him in the back of the head. Lex, what's wrong? Hurry up and bring the octopus over, starve to death, he said. Zhiyuan bluntly said to Lex, for Zhiyuan, accompanying Lex is love, and bullying Lex is daily. It's almost there, just a moment, this beautiful lady. The octopus man quickly said and quickly flipped over the octopus on the iron plate. For him, receiving 20 orders of octopus grilled meat in the evening was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise, and he could make an extra profit. He hasn't managed to make up enough for the rent on Yuan Street next month. In this world, most people are just ordinary people who work hard to make a living. Lex and Zhiyuan are undoubtedly very lucky in all aspects. Here, 2 distinguished guests, please enjoy the Lao Ba specialty octopus barbecue, said the octopus man warmly. Puff, Lex couldn't help but laugh out loud. What's wrong, why are you laughing? Only Yuan was curious. It's nothing, I just remembered something funny. Is it true that Lao Ba and Xiao Ba are in the same lineage? However, upon hearing about this braised octopus dish, it is obvious that Lex has settled in Bengbu. Lex wants to ask, is it secretly made? But I'm too embarrassed to speak up. Under the streetlights, the lights stretched out the figures of the two. Lex and Zhiyuan continued to walk forward. Wife, taste it. It smells very fragrant. Lex handed over a non-spicy dish, only the garden doesn't like spicy food. Ah, hey me. Yuan's mouth opened slightly and he looked into Lex's eyes, saying. Lex chuckled lightly, using one hand to tie an octopus grill with a wooden stick, and the other hand to lift it from below. He carefully put the octopus grill in his hand into the mouth of the little garden, afraid of scalding it. I took a bite and chewed on it, constantly slapping my mouth with my little hand. It was a bit hot. Here, grape juice, with ice. Lex took out the prepared juice from a different space and handed it to the garden. Zhiyuan took it, took a big sip twice, handed it to Lex, and then continued speaking to Lex. Lex, octopus braised, I still have to eat. Maybe I'm really hungry, or maybe it's because Lao Ba's specialty octopus grill is really delicious. I only started eating today's 6th octopus grill. Here it is. The biggest function of Lex's unique space is actually to facilitate and preserve the freshness of food while shopping. Lex, Guion suddenly spoke. Give me a kiss. After a kiss, Zhiyuan continued to eat octopus stew and walked towards the bubble Ferris wheel of the amusement park, only occasionally licking his lips. In the New World, the flying pirates are located in the latter half of the New World, commanding the widest sea area of the New World. The Whitebeard pirates are located in the central region of the New World, bordering the sphere of influence of the flying pirates. As for the Roger pirates, they do have territory. However, the Roger pirates are not stationed on their own territory all year round, wandering around the world. They just leave behind a Roger pirate's flag, which is enough, and no one dares to invade. The only royal group is not just talk, the cutting-edge route does have its merits. At this time, on the island that borders the Whitebeard pirates and the flying pirates, the anti-islands. The two sides, were sitting in a secret room holding a secret meeting, and their observations kept an eye on the movements of the entire archipelago. Shi, can you really trust these people you're leading? Whitebeard confirmed again. Newgate, I'm sure it's better than these little devils you brought. The Golden Lion looked disdainfully at Marco, Bista, and Sachai behind the Whitebeard. Kulalala, family and subordinates are different. Didn't Lex tell you? Whitebeard smiled proudly. Jiha, when it comes to Lex, that kid should be on vacation in Shampoo Land and Garden right now, said the Golden Lion. Commander, let's not mention the matter of the young master's vacation for now. Let's start the alliance between the two sides as soon as possible to avoid long dreams at night. One of the two major lieutenants of the Golden Lion, the captain of Fleet 1 of the flying pirates, Aguila's Gut, reminds that this tall and slender dark man is always very reliable. Perhaps it is tradition. Since ancient times, top pirates themselves have often been unreliable, and their assistants are actually very trustworthy. Of course, the Red Earl and Lone Rangers like Hawkeye are different. Newgate, Lex should have roughly explained to you the plan for 10 years. The Golden Lion had a focused gaze and was holding a cigar. Well, that's why I formed an alliance, but I've agreed in advance that I won't joke with my family's lives, Shiki. Whitebeard said solemnly. Don't worry, although these little ghosts behind you have some talent, they are still far behind. I won't be so destitute that I can even make use of this new generation's combat power. You should know that according to Lex and our plan, the first decade's plan is more focused on layout. The Golden Lion spoke confidently. That's why we secretly formed an alliance here, added by Hu. Alright, let me roughly emphasize the alliance plan again. This alliance will be conducted in secret, and only the highest level of both sides will know. After the alliance, everything will remain the same, and no public announcements will be made. From now on, the internal team will stand by and help each other, with a 10-year plan as the center, unite the forces of both sides, and the temporary goal of driving the Navy out of the New World. Do you have any objections? Butte announced with a plan in hand. Paradise, Shampoo Land Island 36, is still at night. Under the night sky, the Milky Way is like practice, and the starlight is like a waterfall, falling into the sky. The top of the bubble Ferris wheel. Lex. Zhiyuan blushed and groaned incoherently. What's wrong? Lex held Gion in his arms, his palms seeming to be needing something, while his eyes gazed at the night scene of the shampoo field outside the bubble. I still need it, Gion said coquettishly, lifting his head in Lex's arms. Lex smiled and lowered his head to kiss. Chapter 10. Difficulty is the many farewells in the world. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. The first beam of light in the early morning of Shampoo Land fell on the top of the 66th Archiman mangrove tree, forming an irregular spot through the dense branches and leaves. Subsequently, more and more beams of light transformed into patches of light, scattered on the ground, creating an ocean of light and trees. Oh, Lex, remember to call me on the phone every day. Zhiyuan held Lex and tiptoed to whispered in his ear. I can come to Shampoo regularly, but it will only take about a day or two to do so. Besides, your patrol mission at Shampoo will end next month and you need to return to Marinfando. I'll come see you then, Lex said gently, holding on to the waist of the garden. But you're a pirate, Yuan chuckled lightly. Didn't you say that? Although I went to sea, my identity is not that of a pirate. Lex felt somewhat helpless. Those who knew his identity subconsciously thought that Lex was a pirate, a born pirate king. Can the descendants of pirates still be a just navy? Not to mention the Golden Lion, the Red Earl, and the successor of the Whitebeard. Leon Lex. It is simply a natural heinous crime, unforgivable. Lex continued, it's okay. Currently, only one red-haired uncle and 5 old men in the government know my identity, but they will definitely not expose me. Instead, they will be your help in promoting me to the rank of general in the future. On the pirate side, relying on my master's knowledge, and not many people who know my identity, I will not be exposed for the time being. What if it's exposed? Can anyone kill me, hee. Lex smiled confidently and rubbed Yuan's head. But on the day your identity was known to the world, how should I face you? Are you going to have an underground romance? I knew that Lex likes to be a bit pervert. Will he secretly sneak into Marinfando to bully me in the future? Only the garden started joking. Haha, don't worry, the world government is not one piece. Even old Ghost Che can secretly cooperate with me, let alone be the loyal dog and navy of the world government. At Lex's level, justice and evil are no longer so important, or perhaps not so clear, just different positions and thoughts. In the future 7 Martial Seas, in the words of Duo Flamenco, only the winner is justice. The world is not so clearly black and white, most of the time it is gray, and as we reach higher levels, it becomes more apparent. Lex, I know you're very powerful, but the more you do, the less I understand the meaning of sending me to the Navy. Even if you become a general of the warring states, General Zifa, and Lieutenant General Kapu, your combat power is not indispensable to you, is it? Zhiyuan looked up carefully at Lex's deep blue eyes. The space fruit had undergone a mutation after awakening. Yeah, what I need is not only the highest combat power, but also the highest combat power. What I need is the collapse of the Navy's faith. Lex spoke softly, looking like a conspirator at the moment. The morning light was shining on his face, and his blue pupils were shining brightly. He said these words with a smile in the sunlight. Zhiyuan was stunned. She had never thought that Lex had such ulterior motives for joining the Navy. Although she said that her man was not very good, the fact was that. But can I really do it? Zhiyuan seemed to be asking Lex, as if asking himself. Even if you don't believe in yourself, don't you still believe in you, man, and me? Lex hugged Yuan again. The garden leaned against Lex's chest, feeling incredibly warm. After the death of Tsukiki, the father of Tsukigahara, Lex became the entire world of Tsukigahara. even if it was about backstabbing the Navy and swearing at traitors, it didn't matter. How could you carry the name of a traitor on your back? Relax, not only will you not become a naval traitor, but you will also become a true naval hero, Lex said subconsciously. Zhiyuan was momentarily stunned, then punched Lex in the chest. Bastard, didn't you tell me not to eavesdrop on my feelings? It's really bad, Lex, Zhiyuan broke free from Lex's embrace, hugged her arms and turned her back. Ah. I'm sorry, wife, I couldn't hold back. Lex quickly pulled the garden from behind and explained in a warm voice. It's shameless to eavesdrop on others' voices or something by relying on one's sight, hearing, and appearance. Zhiyuan didn't appreciate it and opened Lex's outstretched arm. Alright, next time I come over and bring you all the delicious food from Qinghai, okay? Don't be angry, wife. Girls will age faster when they get angry. Lex said something to coax the little girl, but the only way to do it is to try it out. Perhaps it's because we only eat Lex's said in the garden, and it's not possible to switch to anyone else. As promised, you swear to bring me all the delicious food from the West Sea, oh yes, as well as the North Sea, East China Sea, and by the way, the South China Sea. Zhiyuan turned around and spoke out the names of the 4 major sea areas in a row. Give me a break, even if the spatial fruit is powerful, it would be too difficult for people to find delicious food for you all over the world, Lex said with a bitter expression on his face. I don't care, whoever let you bully me first, just say, take it or not, and bring me all the delicious food from all over the world to Marinfando. Zhiyuan's expression was fixed on Lex's face. Although Zhiyuan didn't have the ability to read his mind like Lex did, she could always be certain of what Lex was thinking, or in other words, whenever Zhiyuan wanted something, Lex would do everything he could to get it. This can be considered another kind of reading his mind. Okay, I promise you, but you must be obedient and practice diligently. Got it. Then I'll leave. I'll call you when I get to the West Sea, Lex finally said. Zhiyuan didn't speak, just opened her red eyes wide, and the black mole at the corner of her mouth trembled with her lips, as if it was just an instant. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she held back the tears and didn't let them fall. Having it and then losing it is even more painful, and each parting always hurts more than ever. Lex couldn't bear it, took the garden into his arms and hugged it tightly, as if he wanted to rub her into his body. Then he relaxed his embrace and spoke up. Alright, it's not that I won't come back. I'll go to Marinfando to see you in a few months at most, and there will be delicious food from all over the world then. Lex, I don't know why. In the past year, I feel like I've been getting farther and farther away from you. You never left me for more than 3 days before. Even if you go to the New World to meet your uncles and they will come back soon. I always feel that it's just right, you should always be with me. Finally, Zhiyuan couldn't help but cry out loud. But it wasn't until last year that I realized it wasn't like this at all. I was so stupid, I always thought. All your kindness to me was deserved, but it wasn't at all. I couldn't help you with anything, so when you told me to join the Navy, although it was hard for me, I still joined because I thought maybe this could help you and make your life easier. As Zhiyuan spoke, she cried more and more, tears streaming down her face. Lex held Zhiyuan tightly, patiently wiping away the tears that kept sliding down her face. She listened to Zhiyuan's words, but she didn't say a word. She just listened, knowing that no matter what he said now, it was better to let Zhiyuan cry a good time, even though he felt very sorry at the moment. Since I returned to Qinghai with you at the age of 14, you have been training more than once until you were on the brink of death. I asked you why, you just said it's okay with blood, but I know that no one would exercise like death every day for no reason. You must have a great pursuit, but you never told me. I thought you thought I was a burden, and I was in a slump for a long time. But when I later learned from Uncle That you never told him. I was very happy, but also very sad. I don't know what you are pursuing, but watching you always take on the responsibility alone, practicing tirelessly, constantly becoming stronger, but never telling others why, I feel heartbroken, so I can only practice with you, hoping to become stronger and become your strength. But the gap is just getting bigger, and gradually I can't even feel the scent on you. Later, I joined the Navy just to become a force you can use, but now I regret it, you know. Darling, I don't want to leave you for a moment, I really regret it, but I'm conflicted again. I want to help you, make your life easier. I don't know what to do, Lex. Zhiyuan continued to cry, her tears couldn't stop, and her eyes were completely swollen with tears. After all, she was only 18 years old this year. Lex felt extremely heartbroken. He grabbed onto Yuan's shoulders, their eyes facing each other, only one step away. Like most scenes in movies and novels, Lex also deeply kissed them. However, this kiss is more passionate and long-lasting than all the kisses in the past 4 years. Zhiyuan closed her eyes tightly and kissed her selflessly. Her pink tongue unconsciously penetrated deeper, but in an instant, she turned from attacking to defending and was defeated. For a long time, lips parted. Lex once again embraced Zhiyuan and placed one hand on Zhiyuan's waist. Wife, wait for me to come back. The familiar and gentle voice of Lex came from the ears of Guion, but wherever his hands were wrapped around him, there was no one left, only the morning breeze brushing through Guion's hair. Lex, let's go.